enough of that. Let's get started here. Got my starting soon videos. Got a little bit of music underneath that. We're professional now. Got my Wacom tablet working. Okay, good. Hey everybody, got my chat up. I do need some reference up though, because we'll be working on, I think, I'm always open to doing whatever. We're gonna hop in here. Go ahead and minimize that. Bebop reference. We're gonna load a little bit of. Actually, I hope I saved the latest version of what we were working on. Yeah, this looks later. That'll work. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna start up. Sorry, my monitors are a little bit off. I had to rearrange my room here. So we're gonna go here to add local image. I'm gonna go ahead and use Quadro to pop some images up here of a grenade. And I'm gonna go ahead and load these textures in so we can kind of match the proportions and whatnot. But this is what we'll be modeling real fast this morning. Let's go ahead and populate these around here. Let's see here. All right, we have this. We're up and running. Okay, sorry. Oh, and I'm just a little off my Mickey Mouse ears. I guess I can stream like that. That'll be okay. Had to move my camera. Okay, so here's our guy. We don't really need him necessarily because we can just model this at the center of our screen here. And actually, this isn't going to work now that I look at this. So we're going to look up grenade. I'm going to get a better image. Hopefully one of just a side view. Oh, perfect. Look at this one. Okay, so save image as right here on our desktop. And we're going to go in here to texture, import. And I'm going to get a big drink of water. I'm just going to load that right in here. Alrighty. And then we're going to go in here. We're going to take this picture. We're going to add it to our spotlight right there, that little plus sign. It makes this a little bit bigger. And we'll go ahead and get started. So first thing I'm going to do is drop this intensity down, that little opacity guy. We'll drop that down. We don't need to see all the details on this. And we're going to start with kind of a roundish shape. And I also want to make sure we have polarized ends, I believe. So we'll go ahead and start with a subtool. I'm sorry, a tool. A sphere is okay. Go in here to edit mode. We're going to knock this down quite a bit. The defaults are a bit much. We're going to go in here to initialize, and we're going to say maybe 24 by 24 might work. And we'll go ahead and put this into place. We're going to go ahead and say turn on. Boy, I'm a little bit out of practice here. Let's go in here to make Polymesh 3D. Go ahead and hit X to go around X symmetry, but in this case, let's go in here to transform, activate symmetry in the Y with radial count up. So that way, with my radial count, I can go through here and literally just kind of pull this into shape. Although, now that I look at this, let's not do that. Let's be a little bit better about this. So we're going to go in here to our turn on X symmetry again, turn off our radial count. And we'll do this right. We're going to go in here to this gear icon, hit W for a gizmo, gear icon. We're going to go in here to Deformer, and we're just going to hold down Control Alt and just unmask this one, and we're just going to just scale this top one out. And then we'll go ahead and pull this in a little bit. So we're going to kind of scale it out, drop it down just a bit, and that'll give us our overall shape, give or take. Now, if I want to continue back where I started from this point, I'm going to say movie timeline, oops, not load, movie timeline show. And then once that pops up here, we can say set a point here. And then in my custom menu here, I can go through here, turn off show. You can just turn that button back off. So now I can go through here and we can start modeling. So this through here looks like it's a little bit clipped. So hold down Control Shift, and we're just going to clip this back just a little bit here. And we're just going to smooth this out. Let's go back in here to transform, activate symmetry, radial count here. Shift Z to turn that off. And there we go. There's our squash shape. Now I can use my arrow keys to snap this back into view. And now I'm going to say what part of this needs to actually go up. And it looks like, so I did Control Shift and this dragged a point over just to show the visibility of this. I'm going to do Control Shift S to shrink and then Control W to make that a polygroup. So now that I have a polygroup, basically where I want the stem to go, I can go through here and I can say, you know, let's hit W, Control tap this polygroup here, and then Control drag up, and then I'll bring out a little stem here. Of course, while you're Control dragging, you can snap to the side. So that's basically where I want this to go, give or take. Let's go back through here. This transition, it looks like, I mean, that is kind of a hard transition. It goes whoop, straight up. However, on the top here, it is much more rounded out. So we went to the top points of here. If we wanted to smash this part down, in fact, one thing we could do is, let's go transform, turn X symmetry back on without radial symmetry back on. Z modeler BZM, hover over an edge, insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, there we go. And then hold down Control Alt, and we're just going to unmask this top part here. I'm going to unmask mesh center with X symmetry turned off, and then drop this down just a tiny bit. And then I'm just going to Z scale this down. You could also use clip, I suppose, but that'll work. So now this rounded part right here, we're going to go through here and we're just going to say bevel, edge loop complete, put a big fat bevel on there, and then insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation. We're just going to pull right along that edge here and just kind of give that a little fall off here. And I think that'll work. I'm going to keep this yellow polygroup, but these orange and blue ones I'm going to merge. So hold down Control Shift tap right between those polygroups, Control W, and those will all be one polygroup here. Let's make that a little more obvious. There we go. And you know what? We can turn this material down. Ugh, my voice is just on the verge of coughing here. Let me have a little. Yeah, we'll go ahead and finish out Bebop. Ugh, these cough drops are so gross. They're like gushers. They have like a little gooey center. Cool, awesome. Yeah, we'll try and learn something today. Usually I'm the one doing most of the learning, figuring this stuff out. But there we go. We got something going here. So now let's. Yeah, it looks like this one here has a little bit of brass right there at the top or something. We'll ignore that for now. So, okay, I got my reference up, and I guess we'll just keep on going. So we got our basic shape in here. So now let's go ahead and put a cube right here. So if I'm going to do a cube, I can literally just append anything. Usually my default would be like, okay, I'm going to append Polymesh 3D. That's just the star. So if I go through here and just grab the star, that's what I get. However, I can go right down here to initialize cube, and that'll put a cube right in the middle of my scene. We'll drag this right up here, and we're good to go. Now, one thing to consider is where I want my X forward to be. So let's go ahead and turn on our floor here. And right now, I'm sorry, not X forward, Z forward. So here's our Z forward. And right now, when I have this snap to the side, Z forward is towards me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm actually going to move Z forward so it's looking to my right, like so. So I'm going to X symmetry across this axis. So in order to go ahead and fix our movie timeline, I need to go in there. I'm going to turn show back on. So we turn that on initially up here under here, show. I'm going to go ahead and drag this dot off and then put a little more, another dot back in there, and then we'll go ahead and unshow that. So now Z forward is this way when I snap. So now when I have X symmetry turned on, so if I turn X symmetry back on, I'm symmetrical across this axis, the forward looking point of that. So there's my cube here. So we're just going to say W, and this is right down the middle here. If I turn on polyframe, you know, so if I have this, if I hold down Alt and I move this pivot out somewhere, I can always just go to Unmask Mesh Center, or underneath masking, there's a go to Unmask Mesh Center. As long as X symmetry is off, it'll go ahead and put that right down there. So I'm going to go ahead and push this into place. It looks like from my reference, this thing is about the same width as this thing, so we're in good shape. However, I am going to need to bring this back end back just a little bit, so hold down Control Alt and snap that back into place, and we're just going to pull this right on back, and I think we're in good shape. Now I do want to round these corners off. I'm going to give this a shot. Let's go in here to Insert, Single Edge Loop, hold down Alt. I'm going to get rid of those extraneous loops here. I'm going to go down here to Geometry, Dynamic Subdivision, turn on Dynamic, and then Smooth Subdivision we're going to turn down to 1, and then QGrid, we're going to crank that up and then change that coverage down. So we can kind of get that type of look. In fact, we're going to go in here, turn off Bevel and turn on Chamfer. Just get a nice smooth fall off. Is that what it looks like? Maybe not that extreme. So we're going to take this QGrid and we're going to tighten that up just a little bit here. Actually, the coverage will bring down just a little bit. So something like that is what we're going for. Good enough. Alrighty. So now, sorry, I'm trying to, and it has a little lip out here, so we can go ahead and add that in, it looks like. So right down the middle of here, let's go ahead and turn this on so you can see a little bit better. Let's go ahead and say a bevel, edge loop complete. I'm gonna put a bevel right down the middle, and then I'm gonna do a quick mirror and weld across the X, put that midline back in there. And then this is a little lip that's gonna pop out. So I'm gonna say insert single edge loop about here. Actually, I guess I can use my reference, huh? Control Alt, move this down. So this little thing comes out, and then it turns into a little cylinder thing. So how are we gonna put a cylinder in there? In this case, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into my custom menu here, Alt EM. We're gonna drop a cylinder. I have a cylinder pointing to the side here, cylinder mid 12. And with X symmetry turned on, we're just gonna drop that right down the middle. Go ahead and say split mass points. So now, if I would have gone in here, BI brush insert and just grabbed an insert mesh primitive and grabbed a cylinder, these cylinders, I don't know how many spans they are, so I didn't want to use those. But I made my own custom IMM brush that has a cylinder with 12 divisions around its axis, I guess, and then looking right at me. So when I drop it down the middle, I'm good to go. And it's even got a midline. But if I go in here and do a mirror and weld, it'll go ahead and have that up there. Question. I will say hi to Pepper. I think she's going on her poop walk right now with Mom. Thanks for the stream. Cool. Can you turn dynamic subdiv off after hitting apply? Or what does that button do to the geometry in the tab? That actually does apply the geometry. So if I hit D, that turns dynamic back on, and then Shift D turns it off. If I do hit apply, that's going to make this real geometry. And in this case, I don't want to necessarily do that just at this moment. I want to go ahead and keep this dynamic, because if I want to go ahead and change the topology, I want to make sure I can hit D, Shift D or D to pop back out of there and then continue adding stuff to it. I'm going to go here to, oops, I'll tap this one, hit W, go to, I'm going to reset this, go to Unmask Mesh Center. You can see how we're on the local axis here. Let's go ahead and turn off X symmetry. So we can put it right down there in the middle, and then go a snap back, and we're going to go ahead and drop this right in here. There we go. So now we have this thing, and then this thing's going to have a lip that comes forward and interpenetrates with this cylinder here. And the cylinder is going to be about, and again, I'm just kind of eyeballing this reference over here. It goes out the same width here. And on the cylinder here, if I turn on D for dynamic, you can see it's going to inherit the dynamic properties of the previous, or the mesh that I dragged it on, which has QGrid on. Don't want QGrid for a cylinder. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go down here to crease, and then we're going to say, and we just did a crease tolerance of 45, so it creased our hard edges over here. Then we're going to say smooth subdiv of 2, crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3, and that'll kind of, you know, give me a little bit of smoother look. Again, Shift D to turn that off, and then D to turn that back on. And then if I want to, I can put in a little bit of control loop. So insert single edge loop. We can make that a little bit sharper here, and then make sure we don't do any scalloping by putting a control loop right along the edge here. If it'll let me, if it won't, no big deal. I can go in here, I can say inset flat island and just pull in a little thing here. So now we have this. So yeah, looking at this here, let's see. Looks like this needs to be backed off just a little bit. these don't actually touch. So we're going to push this back just a little bit here, and then this little middle piece here. So here's one thing we can try. I'm going to go through here. I'm going to say extrude an edge and just pull this out. No. Let's try QMesh an edge. There we go. So I'm going to QMesh this edge out. That's about what it looks like, and that's just going to pull that straight across, which is exactly what I'm looking for here. And we'll just go ahead and drag these points. So they're just kind of meeting these. So it's that kind of shape. All right, I think we're doing okay. Now, and this is where it's going to get a little bit maybe tricky, is that if I go ahead and hit D for dynamic, you're going to see I'm getting a little bit of weird scalloping on these edges. QGrid isn't going to work great on this little triangular piece here. If I want to, I can go ahead and say, you know what? Let's go down here. We'll run another crease tolerance on here. We're going to turn off QGrid, and we're just going to use a smooth subdiv. So we're going to say smooth subdiv of 3. Well, this is, crease level of 3, smooth subdiv of 4. Here's my custom menu. And then we can go down here and we can say, you know what, let's go ahead and just say crease this edge here. So now we get, and this one up here. So that way, you know, let's say smooth subdiv of 5. There we go. A little bit of a smoother look. And if I want to go through here and put in my control loops, we can, but we'll go ahead and just live with that for now. Ta-da. And if we want a little bit of a smoother result on this, we can go ahead and hit D for dynamic. However, if you remember, we got this kind of hard little edge right here. Well, we can just use creasing for that. In fact, if I want to, I can go ahead and just say crease tolerance again, and that'll put a crease around here, but it picked up this little edge right here. I don't necessarily want that, so I'm going to take this crease tolerance, crank it up a little bit, and drop in a crease, and then it just puts a crease right here. So now when I hit D, I'll keep that nice and tight, and then I can go through here and say, you know what, crease level of 3, smooth subdiv of 4, and then I'll kind of back it off just a tiny bit. Something like that. Ugh, gotta stay hydrated, sorry. Is there a way to change the pivot for the model before exporting to other apps at UE4 Blender Maya? I end up setting the pivot in Blender as ZBrush pivot is always off. That's a really good question, and I don't think so. If this is your pivot, can you set this? So there is you can explore this. So underneath transform, there is an S pivot in here, and that sets your pivot point. And then there's a clear pivot point in here. You can play around with these. In fact, I think Joseph Drust on his Ask ZBrush has something on here like what this function is. But you're right. If I'm doing anything where it's like I'm going from an object where the pivot has to be in a very specific, like if I'm putting in like a modular set piece and the pivot has to be in a very particular place, I just do that in Maya or Blender or whatever you want to use. I'll click on vertex move pivot only within ZBrush, but it's ignored when yeah, exactly. I wish I had a better answer for you for that. I haven't really explored that very much, but it may be something to do with these. I don't know, or not. Maybe those don't do anything on export. In ZModeler Brush, is there a way to affect points or edges? Yeah. So when you're in here, so we've got this little box thing here. If you're hovering, if you're in the ZModeler Brush, B, Z, M, and you hover over an edge, these are edge options. So you know we have it set to crease right now. In fact, if I go back to our little guy here, and I say, you know what, let's go ahead. And when I'm in my custom menu, I'm really just using this functionality over here. So you can find it. I'm just gonna go ahead and say uncrease all. And instead of going through here and being like, okay, I'm gonna use my crease tolerance, I'm gonna hover over an edge with my ZModeler Brush this time. And let's do Shift D. So we can see exactly where that edge is. You can see I'm hovering over this edge, hold down spacebar, crease. It's set to edge. So I can go through here and I can click all these edges and crease them, or say edge loop complete, and then just tap this edge. It'll go ahead and crease that entire edge. And then when I hit D, we're in good shape. That same thing, and that's just any component here. So hover over a face, here's your face polygon actions, and then here's your edge actions, and then here's your point actions. In fact, if I hit B, I have some brushes set up. I have some other ZRemeshers set up. So here's ZRemesher, ZModeler Slice, and ZM Topology. So if I click ZM Topology, this is a version of the ZModeler brush. However, it's set up for do nothing on face. It's set up for extrude edge loop, and it's set up for move point. So if I want to just do topology in ZBrush, I can use that ZModeler brush as opposed to the default. And I can hop back into my ZModeler brush if you want to know more about that. Hold on, let me see. View profile. What one was that? Was that 20? I guess that was 2021. Proper ZBrush. What's new 2021? Some 96 damn videos for 2021. That's a big release. You know what? Let's view this. Hold on, just give me 1 minute. I'm gonna view this on YouTube, and we're gonna do a. There we go. ZModeler, subdiv capabilities, extrude, new options, ZModeler topology. Maybe 33, 34, 35 in here. We'll have more information on that. A little bit of new stuff. Let me make this a little bit bigger here, sorry. My eyes are getting old. Well, maybe I can't. Oh, by the way, here is a bunch of YouTube videos. You can even go through here and you could say, you know what, it would be ZModeler. So we have ZModeler questions. You can go through here. There's a bunch of ZModeler stuff you can check out, for example. And then also, my illustration page might be a little bit easier to look at. So if you go through here, you can see on ZBrush 2020 what's new, ZBrush 2021, 25, etc. You can hop on here and check that out. Has ZBrush Summit been announced for this year? I haven't heard anything. I'll keep my eyeballs open. You're just modeling the grenade, not the whole character, which you need to retopologize, or you can use ZModeler Geo as it is. I think you can use it as it is. We're staying pretty clean, maybe even a little bit too clean. There's actually ways to go about this using ZRemesh to get the exact same result. We're just having fun with ZModeler right now, but yeah, you could just be like, let me Dynamesh this thing, and then just use ZRemesh or ZModeler to retopologize if I need to. And I might, like, if it's a really complex shape like this, I may be more inclined to possibly do that. Nice to see you, Sina. 2021. Oh, well, like it's locking it to verts or edges. If you wanted like snap. That one's a tougher one. I'm not sure if there is a way. I can't think of a way off the top of my head to, like, especially if you want to snap to, you know, if I wanted to snap this vert to this vert here. I don't think so. What's the best way to prevent muscle deforming when rigging with Z-spheres? Adding more Z-sphere helpers would be one way to do it, although honestly, that can sometimes be more trouble than it's worth. So if we go here, Z-sphere rigging, Z-sphere topology. I got Z-sphere rigging in here somewhere. There it is. Posing right here. So the one with the dog on it. We'll have more information on like Z-sphere posing and stuff with helper joints in the rib area and stuff like that. But I just tend not to use Z-sphere rigging, honestly, unless it's like a creature looking thing that just needs really organic bends. I'll tend not to do that. I'll just go ahead and correct my corrective. I'll sculpt my corrective shapes in ZBrush. As a company, use your stylus pin buttons for right click and scroll. I don't frequently use these buttons hovering in ZBrush viewport. Yeah, actually. If I go in here to my Wacom, sorry, properties, and we head in here to my mapping, grip pin, there we go. I have the back one set to middle click and the front one set to right click. I can use that for right click navigation, so in case you aren't aware. If I was really zoomed in here, you can of course use your safe. I have a little bit of my screen poking out, so I can actually use my safe action to still rotate, but you can also use right click navigation. So you can use, I'm using the bottom button to do right click, and then if I was to like hop into Maya, I can use this for my navigation as well. I can use like right click and middle click to pan around. And ZBrush navigation is a little bit different, but same idea. Yeah, so yes, I do for my pen. Are Z-sphere still your preferred method for retopo? In ZBrush, yes. I can get it done pretty quick usually. Cool. All right, so let's see here. Now we got a little bit of a trickier thing. Not really, it's not that tricky, but what we can do is we're gonna go in here to solo mode. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this little cap on here. We got some little weirdo shapes in here. You know what we could do? We can try and use, we can see if ZRemesh will do a good job on this. It's probably a little bit more trouble than it's worth, but let's give it a shot. So we have this kind of weirdo shape. Oops. We have kind of this little weirdo shape right here. And we could use some of this geometry here, but what we could also do is, let's go ahead and just say append a plane 3D. And then with this plane 3D selected, I'm gonna go ahead and just say rotate this, hold down shift and rotate it 90 degrees so it's looking right at us here. And then I'm just gonna move this into place. I'm not saying this is gonna be the best way to go about this, but again, we'll give it a shot. So go into solo mode here, I'm gonna hit Control D a bunch of times so that we're up to about 1 million. And then I'm gonna go in here, we can turn off polyframe. We're gonna say turn on RGB for a standard brush, or people get mad when I do that. Let's do BPA for our paintbrush here. And oops, I'm just gonna go through here and I'm gonna paint this kind of weirdo shape. So now, we could use these spheres for this. We can go through here and plot points right along here if ZRemesh doesn't really give us what we're looking for. But essentially what we're looking for is this weirdo kind of shape. And if I want to use Z spheres for this, I can go through here and I can start masking where I want this to go. Now, this shape right here, you can see where it kind of goes here and then there's a little loop-de-loop. I can add that in later. I'm just looking for this big weird shape right here. So it kind of goes in and then up and then over. And again, this may not be the best way to go about this, but again, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll have a, boy, I don't even remember how to navigate. I'm in bad shape, folks. And then around here, there's gonna be a big hole in here. And again, we can put this hole in later, or we can see if ZRemesh can handle it early. Oh, here's the thing. So we can, if we want to put a straight line in here, we can hold down Control while we're masking, right? And then we can hold down Shift, but Shift isn't really going to work for this. What I'm going to hit is W, Y. It's not going to work for a masking brush, but I can take this transpose line and pull it right along here, then hold down Control, and then snap that exactly to a straight line. So I'll hold down Control. That's going to move my camera so that this is the camera's in a straight line. Again, it's not going to necessarily, let's hit Q to go back into draw mode. It's not going to let me hold down Shift with masking anymore, but what we can do is we can go through here, and now we can just use mask rectangle to mask this here, and then again hit W, Y to go into transpose line mode. I'm going to put this transpose line right along here, hold down Control, tap that little white icon there, hit Q to go back into draw mode, and then again we can just put in a little rectangular doodad. And then we're back here in mask pin and we can just finish this out. So that's the basic overall shape we're looking for, and then this is going to swoop right in here like so. So now if I turn off that poly paint, here you can see there's the shape I have. And then we're going to see if ZRemesh can do a decent job. In fact, you know what we're going to do? We're going to clean up that circle line. We're going to use a poly group for that. Looks like I got a little bit of a little squiggle on there, but we can get rid of that too. So here's my mask here. We're gonna you know what I'm doing? I'm gonna hold down Control and tap to kind of blur that out a little bit, and then Control Alt tap to sharpen it back up. And then here, let's go ahead and clean this up just a tad. So most of this I think I can deal with. So here's my overall shape. Now, if I Control tap and then we go through here and we say, I think there is we're getting a little bit weird here. Let's see, deformation. You can relax plane, morph plane. I'm going to do what am I looking for? It's don't really know what I'm looking for here. I guess a size in the, what direction are we in? In the floor here, a size in the X direction. Let's try that. So I'm gonna say X direction here. Size of -100. And then I'll kind of Z scale this back into -100. Sorry, that was a weird one. So we have this. So now if I hold down Control and tap and then hit Control W, that's going to give us a polygroup for this area here. However, I'm going to hold down Control Shift and we're going to say auto groups on this one, because what we're going to do is we're going to take this one and this one here. We're going to go up here and we're going to say geometry, delete lower, and then geometry modified topology, delete hidden. We're going to go ahead and just slice circle right in here. In fact, you can see all these little weird aliased edges. If we would have gone through here and said geometry edge loop mask border, that could have alleviated that, but we're going to do this. We're going to go down here to masking. We're going to say mask our open border, mask by features. We're going to grow that a little bit and then control tap to invert that, and then go up here to deformation, polish by features, open circle, and then just tap that a couple times just to smooth those lines out just a little bit. Let's hit Control W, make this all one polygroup here. And then let's go ahead and snap this back to our camera view. I'm going to go into solo mode here. And then, let's see, unmask here. And then I'm going to say Control Shift. We're going to go in here to slice circle. And let's go ahead and say square center. Gosh, I can't see anything. Let's go ahead and turn off line so I can see a little bit better. There it is. So right here, I'm just going to slice a circle through there. So now this is an awful lot of work for something I could have just plotted those points out and gotten exactly what I wanted. But you know what, while we're live streaming, we're experimenting and we're trying some stuff. So we got this all plotted out here. So I'm going to go ahead and say Control Shift, Geometry Modified Topology, delete hidden. And then we're all going to cross our fingers here. And we're going to say Geometry, ZRemesher. Let's say adaptive size down. The lower the adaptive size, the more even the geometry is going to be. So I'm going to say down a bit, maybe to 11. We don't need to keep groups on. We don't need to smooth groups, already smoothish. And then we're just going to say target polygon count of maybe 2000. Hit ZRemesher. Again, this is kind of a weird shape. You know what? It didn't do too terribly. Let's go ahead and say half ZRemesh. There we go. Oh my goodness. And then along the back here, you're going to see it has a little bit of stragglers. That's okay. You can say, we're going to hover over a face. We're going to say delete a single poly with ZModeler brush, BZM. And we're just going to get rid of these these things are going to wreak havoc on our ZRemesher here. And now you can see, here's where we can use snapping a little bit. We can say ZModeler brush, hover over a point, and we can say bridge 2 points, U to U, maybe, nope, not bridge, stitch 2 points, sorry. Just so we can, and if it's ever like, I'm gonna say do nothing on the face action so it's not constantly fighting me here. There we go. And again, because I don't want to ZRemesh to build those in. So we got our overall shape here. I think we're okay. ZRemesher half. There you go. So did it do the world's greatest job in here? No, but you know what? It got us pretty close. And we can actually go through here and start cleaning this up too. So if we want to make this a little bit rounder, we can. And again, you absolutely could have and probably should have if you're watching this later and you're just joining us at this exact minute. You probably should go through on that plane that we made and just go ahead and plot those points in. And then you could put a little circle in there and, you know, it would save you a little bit of heartache on having ZRemesher have to do the heavy lifting for you. But we're already past that point. So collapse edge. I'm just going to go through here and I'm just going to go through and just collapse these edges down. So now that I've done this, I've started collapsing them. I can go back in here and say, again, collapse poly loop and just bloop, get rid of all these here. There we go. And then we'll just say collapse edge. Clean this up. And since we're snapped to the side, I can literally just use my move brush. You can also use your ZModeler brush with move turned on and you know, clean this up however you'd like. So we've got our kind of weirdo shape in here. If I do Shift Z and put this back in, that's our overall shape. And then I can just kind of extrude this out once we add some thickness on here. I'm not still in love with this. What we're going to do is say collapse edge, and then we're going to say collapse poly loop here. See if that'll work for us. Yeah, that'll work. Again, if you want to resolve some of this, we can go through here, say Control Shift, and we say slice. Let's put a slice right through here, hit Control W, and then we go through here and we say, okay, collapse edge here, and then delete edge here. We'll call that good enough for now. That's about right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give this thing some thickness. So you're going to see when I'm looking at it from the front, it's perfectly flat. So I'm going to say, let's go ahead and just do an extrude polygroup all. We'll just pull this over to the other side and then display properties flip. It's way down here at the bottom. Display properties flip. And then, oh goodness, let's go ahead and just say, go to unmesh mesh center here. I'm going to scoot this over. So we're somewhat down the middle here, and it's a geometry modified topology mirror and weld across the x-axis, and that'll put us right down the middle. And then now I can go through here, and we're going to scale this out just a bit. So we're going to say U, kind of go past that point just a tad. There we go. And we'll go ahead and put on D for dynamic on that one. And you know what? It looks like, you know, again, we got that really thin piece of metal that goes across here, but also this needs to be a little bit flatter. So we're going to go ahead and say Control Alt. I'm going to grab all of these top verts here. Go ahead and set our pivot, hold down Alt and just set them, and then just Z scale, or in this case, Y scale these up, and then these endpoints here. I'm going to go ahead and say set this here, and then scale these in. There we go. So now, go ahead and pull this point forward a little bit, and then it gets really thin up here. So we're going to say Insert Single Edge Loop. Just pop in an edge loop right along the top here. And then these two polygons here, we're going to go ahead and turn on X symmetry, hold down Alt, tap here, W, Control tap that polygroup, and we're going to say, sorry, let's do this. Let's do transpose a single poly. Go ahead and it'll unmask these here. We're going to say reset, so I can hold down Control and just pull these here. I'm going to scale these back so we can pull these straight out. So now, again, let me go ahead and, so I can see this. So we're basically pulling out this geometry here. Now it's going to have to make a little bend here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go through here. There's the modeler brush. We're going to say, I guess QMesh will work fine. QMesh, single poly here. Hold down Control and just pull off a little piece here. And then Control Alt, and then just move this down. So it's going to go around this bend here to here, and then it's going to loop all the way over to here. Let's go ahead and go to Unmasked Mesh Center, and we'll just rotate this around. So now I should be able, fingers crossed, should be able to bridge here to here. So we're going to say delete a single poly here to here, and then we'll just say bridge two holes, U to U, and then delete, delete, bridge, and bridge. Not great. However, now that I see, you know, where this thing needs to end up, I can actually go through here and say, you know, let's delete that. Let's go out of solo mode. I'm going to borrow geometry from this thing. So we're going to say duplicate our, let's do Shift D, duplicate our little cylinder off here. Essentially, we're going to copy this geometry and then borrow some of this geo. And it ends a little bit prematurely, so it's not going to go all the way here. So let's go into solo mode here. Basically, it's going to be this one, this one, this one, this one to this one. So we're going to isolate just this, a delete hidden, and then we can say, you know what, let's say QMesh, polygroup all. We'll say pull this down, give it some thickness here. So now we've got this piece here into this piece here. If we need to make this a little bit thicker, just hold down Shift as you're using QMesh. That'll thicken it up a little bit. So now we've got this little loop here, and we've got this loop here. So I'm gonna hold down Shift, bent arrow down, Alt tap this one, Shift, bent arrow down, isolate just both of these here, and then I just need to sew these two up. And yes, actually, I'm gonna hold down Control Alt W, and we're gonna scoot this over. We got X symmetry turned on. No, we don't, but I can do a quick mirror and weld across the X. There we go. And then, I guess we do have asymmetry now. Okay, so again, I want this one to kind of continue right in here. I could use a bridge function if I merge these down. However, this is going to have to meet up with this. We're going to say insert single edge loop here. Sorry, this is kind of a dry Z-modeler run through, but oh well. And then we're going to take this here, hold down Control Alt. I'm just going to kind of rotate this to kind of get us a little bit closer here. Okay, so now I'm going to merge both these down. I'm going to merge this one onto this one, so we're going to go in here to merge down here. So now these are all part of the same polygroup here. I'm going to hold down Control Shift with a rectangle, and we're just going to grab that one polygon right there in the middle, and then say, hold on, let's go into display properties double. Oh, okay. That doesn't have a cap on it. That's okay. So actually, let's do this. Hold down Control Shift A, and I'm just going to say delete a single poly there. Good enough. And then I'm going to go through here. We're going to say stitch, again, stitch 2 points, U to U, and then those I can just weld, I think. U to U. And then we're going to close this one up. Let's go ahead and turn off our floor here. Bridge, edges, U to U. And then since these points are so close, I'm just going to go into my weld options here, weld points, crank up my weld distance a bit, and then just make sure all these are welded here. So if I hold down Shift and Smooth, you'll see all these points are welded. We have some extraneous geo along here. So when we use ZRemesh, it wants to make everything nice, even quads. You don't necessarily need that. So you can go through here and you can say like insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, and go through here and you can just get rid of, again, any of this extraneous geometry. You wouldn't have extraneous geometry necessarily if you would have gone through here manually and then just plotted out your points. You have a little bit more control, but again, you're just trying some stuff here. And again, along this flat cap, I guess you need those to kind of maintain that shape. Another thing to consider is if you're ever going to see any of this. So we've gone through and we've done all this modeling, and I don't think we're actually going to end up seeing it on our final object. You know, it's going to be a little thing on this jacket, you know, but. Sorry, let me get caught up here. But by the second part of the creature design, which is only about the game pipeline, we'll be able to follow along with my personal sculpt. Yeah, you should be able to. So that's this one. If I remember correctly, it does start with like, hey, as long as you know the basics of ZBrush and you know how to like hop into ZBrush and export things. I mean, I walk you through all that stuff anyway. So yeah, absolutely. This one, this creature production here, part 2, game res process. Also, another one that has game res process is the Mechanical Skull series. Kind of the same deal. I want to say, might be a little bit cheaper too. Let me see. Here's the video breakdown of this. So for the game res, yeah, so here's all the game res files, or the game res process that are in the Mechanical Skull series. So anyway, if anybody's interested in those, you can check them out. Oh, okay, yeah, I brought it up. Mechanical Skull streaming informative, great job, excellent, thank you. I need to do more production-y stuff. I just don't usually end up having a ton of time. There's a lot of content I want to do. Any experience with easy ZRemesh? It's not plugin apparently provides more predictable ZRemesh results. No, usually I can just dial in, you know, I kind of get what I need, just using ZRemesh options. But yeah, check that out if that's helpful. I'm doing good, Brahim. Thanks for asking. Tutorial, yeah, sure, of course. Nomad Sculpt on iPad. What do you think about it? You know what? I haven't. However, I got Nomad. One of our, let me see, ArtStation blog, YouTube. Let me just do a quick search on his. So Matt Keen has, you know, he goes through a lot of stuff. Thoughts on Nomad sculpting, Nomad sculpt models on your phone, Nomad speed sculpts and stuff like this. So I'm going to drop you his YouTube channel here. He's got some good stuff on that. It looks exciting. I just, again, most of my time lately most of my time is spent in Miro. Cool. Sweet cartoon mech character. Is he part of the course you plan on releasing? Yeah, eventually. God, I'm so dumb. Yeah, I do have a whole. You know what I need to do is I need to finish that series out. It just kind of stops prematurely. Yeah, it's basically this guy. He's not great. I think the reason why I haven't released it is he's more of an exercise in like just getting these kind of basic things in here, but I'm not in love with them. I want to do like it's weird. On this series I went through like rated G, rated PG, rated PG-13, and I want to do a rated R version. And by rated I don't mean necessarily like sexual content or anything. I literally just mean like doing something where I would go in and do something a little bit more like my I guess I have my station page here. Doing it a little bit more in this style, where I go through and I just like, hey, let's do the 2B mech, but let's go nuts with his, I guess I can use this one here. There we go. Let's go nuts with his shapes, you know, and make them a little bit more ZBrushy, hard surfacey, as opposed to just kind of like doop, 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 the kind of DreamWorksy. So, yeah, give me some time. Let me finish that series out. Well, here's the other thing too, is that series is so old. I recorded it years ago, so I'm not even sure if the techniques are that relevant anymore. Did you come from a polymodeling background, external software? If so, do you feel ZModeler tools need more separation for context-sensitive things to be faster in iteration? I don't do, I'm not a great polymodeler by any stretch of the imagination. Usually what I'm doing, especially if I'm just feeling out an idea, is like, this is a great example. You know what, I can pop this open real quick here. So let's say load ZBrush demo. Oops. Nope. Sorry, that's on the wrong. Sample files. Bird robot. Oh, you know what? Before I do this, quick save. So there we go. So for example, we can kind of step through this. So this again, if I'm going to be doing just some crazy weirdo hard surface organic-y mixed bag type of thing, I'm just gonna block it on ZBrush. This would be like, you know, a couple hour kind of messing around, and then we're going through and refining it. Probably another couple hours, you know, just kind of getting my idea in the round before I start deciding like, okay, do I want to go through and rebuild the stuff? Now, on the rebuilding process, it's kind of depends on your comfort level. For me in ZBrush, like you said, are the polymodeling tools the best? It kind of depends on what operations you're running. I tend to find them okay. There's some cool tools and some Boolean options and some non-destructive workflows you can do in other software. But at the end of the day, if I just need polygons, I'm probably going to stay 90% in ZBrush. If I need to do like a little weirdo technique or something, I can hop out real quick. But generally speaking, like this is still, in fact, all the way to the end. So here's the refined forms, and then here's the concept final. This is all, and this is, don't get me wrong, this is noisy. It doesn't have great breakup. This is more, this is for thick skin, if you guys remember. If y'all, okay, do I not have access to, there we go. If you remember, let's go ahead and maximize our screen size here. If you remember on this one here, so this was part of the ZBrush 2021.5, I think. Yeah, ZBrush 2021.5, what's new? If you go through here, you're going to see a thick skin option in here. So this is kind of messing around with just some hard surface stuff and some thick skin options for hard surface sculpting, basically, not necessarily modeling. So this is an exercise for that. However, all my ideas are pretty well plotted. I figured out some of the functionality in here. You can see it's still a little bit goopy up in here in the cockpit, so I would still want to go and figure that out. But what I could do is I could go through and I could, you know, pop any of these little pieces off here and say, you know, it's split hidden, and then I could go through and say, I would probably knock this down to its basic shapes and then just rebuild it. Either plot points or ZRemesh, or it kind of depends if I want to go brute force, I'll just ZRemesh it and then go through here with my sculpting tools and make it hard surface, or if I want to go more of a SubD modeling path, I would knock it down to its basic forms, get the SubD, get this thing basically plotted out. You can use any software for that. I'd probably stick in ZBrush. There's no reason for me to hop out of ZBrush for something that fast. And then go through here. And then if I am going to do some serious box modeling where it's like, okay, I'm actually not going to do something like this. Let me see. Sorry, Dynamesh here. Go through here, grab my clay brush. And again, I'm just going to, I just want the basics. This is more like, let me throw some concept-y alphas in here, but I don't really need those. These I can box model in later as needed. But all I really need are these basic forms here. So go through here and just be like, you know what? Let me simplify this just a tad. Shift, smooth intensity, yep. H polish here. Here we go. H polish here. Polish here. So this is my basic shape, and I could rebuild this. In fact, even this, you know what? I probably would build this in because this gets a little bit weird. This shape gets a little bit complex here. But at least I know in the round what my idea is. In fact, all this back end stuff, I could probably just, you know, rebuild the front and then go through here and just, because this is obviously odd. You know, you wouldn't want this here. You could fix this. You can go into Move Brush, turn on back face masking, and then just kind of pull this out just a little bit, and then go through and, you know, clip or Dynamesh or whatever you want to do to clean this up. H polish this all together, but you know, I'll leave that up to you if you wanted to resolve that in the sculpt or just resolve it in the box modeling portion of what you want to do. You know, so you can go through here with your Damien standard and be like, you know what, this ridge should maybe meet up with here. So we'll go in here with our damn standard clay brush. Here, our Move Brush with back face masking on. And then go in here with your H polish brush and just hold down Alt, let go of Alt, and just polish these back up. Now, is that great hard surface modeling? No, but again, it gets my idea in the round. I figured out what I want the shape to be, and now I can decide, you know what, let's rebuild this thing as a SubD mesh, make it super nice, and then add it back in with the rest of my mesh, which I guess would be this one, right? So then I could get IMAX with it. I could be like, let's zoom in on this and render it out. But again, pick and choose your panels. Let's go delete all on that one here. Still good on this. Quick save. I'm back. Thank you. Yeah, I'll get back. ZGMG92. I'll try and get that series rocking and rolling. Cool. Custom menus. Mike. Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you want to speed things up a little bit, I live in here basically. In fact, if you want more information on that, custom. Oops, good old YouTube. Let's type in custom in here, and there's custom interface and menus. There's a bunch of custom interface and menus. If you are new to ZBrush in this playlist here, there is an intro to ZBrush, new and updated, and that's got customizing menus and stuff here. So you know what? I'll just drop this in here. People might enjoy that. It's a semi-updated thing in there. Block using ZModeler. Slow I find usually block complex Boolean forms and maximize and importing. Yeah, you can. And again, however you want to do it is totally fine. What I'm going to do is, you know, let's get back here. So I got skin shader here. I'm going to snap this to my thing here, and I'm saying, you know what? I'm a little bit thin along here. One thing I do love about ZBrush is this group by normals option here. So I'm going to say, let's drop that group by normals down. So I've got green and pink essentially. Let's hit Control W. So this whole poly group here, I want to thicken this up. QMesh, polygroup all, hold down Shift, and just kind of pull along that surface normal there, and just kind of thicken that up. So that way, and again, polygroups, I live and die by polygroups here, especially when I'm Z modeling. Now, if I want to simplify this, just crank that max angle back up, and there we go. You know, let's put that back to 45. Group by normals. There we go. So now we've got all my selections back. And you know what? In fact, I'm gonna thicken this up actually too. All the blue here, I'm gonna hold down again QMesh and then hold down Shift to pull along that surface normal, and that'll give us what we're looking for here. So go out of solo mode, hold down Shift, turn on all our eyeballs again, and we're doing okay. We're doing a-okay. Now this one has a little, you know what? So these ones go down straight. I don't know anything about these really. I've never used this there, but this one's kind of bent in. which I guess doesn't really matter. It does kind of get just a little bit thinner, but we've already kind of built in the thinness, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go down here. You're going to see this line here gets a little bit crimped in here. I'm going to hold down Control-Alt, and then say, I'm just going to move my pivot right in here, and that's going to, you know, get Z scale or Y scale that back flat. And then here, I'm just going to hold down Alt and paint these, and then QMesh this out. And then, again, we'll just say, go down Mesh Center and pull that down. Oops. I guess it'd be about that much in here. And then from the side view here, let's go out of X symmetry and then pop that back in, and we'll go ahead and just pull this in here. Okay, something like that. Looking around. Oh, you know what? This is, this does get a little bit tricky in here, because what we need to do now is this all works. However, inside of here, this actually needs to be nice and thin. So we could, I'm going to simplify this idea real quick. I mean, I don't know why we're spending so much time on this. Okay, right now is where you would probably stop messing around with this and be like, you know what, good enough. You're going to be seeing it on the guy's shirt, like from here. Not a huge deal. If you want to go further, let's do it. So we're going to take this here. We're going to go into solo mode. And I'm going to say, you know what? This is all working fine. So I don't want to worry about this. I'm just going to say U R split hidden. And then Alt tap U is what I really need to figure this out. So again, what I can do is I can hold down. I'm going to do a quick group by normals just to get my polygroups back. And I need the pink, and I need the blue, and I need the green here. These are all the ones I do need, and then we're going to say delete hidden. We do have double turned on in our display properties. Again, display properties is way down here. And then now if we need thickness on here, we could go through here and we could say extrude all polygons and just pull this in. So that'll go ahead and give us, you know, again, that thickness we were looking for. However, you are going to see it's going to kind of crimp these corners a little bit. We can collapse those down. It's not a huge deal. And then now that we do have this, we can hold down Shift and just, oops, extrude polygroup all. So these are all one polygroup now on the inside. Hold down Shift. You could also use panel loops for this if you wanted to. I guess you could. We can go through here. Let's get that a shot. You know, quick save. And then up here underneath your, you could also use extract for this as well. But geometry edge loop, there is a panel loops in here. So we're going to say, you know, elevation, we're going to keep it -100. We don't want this to go out any. We want it to go in. So we're going to say -100. Polish, close circle, 0 loops. We're just going to say 1 double turned on. And then if we do panel loops here, you're going to see it's going to kind of pop in a little bit here, but it's going to be a little bit harder to control on the corners here. It kind of doesn't, oh, you know what? I'm going to say ignore groups. There we go. So that way it'll kind of pop in a little bit of thickness here. And actually, you know what? That's not terrible. It's not terrible. Let's make sure we're making this thick enough. Yeah, that'll work. And you know what? Panel loops. It works fine. So now I'm going to say X symmetry here. I'm going to do a quick geometry modify topology mirror and weld. You can see how it kind of, it's just a little off axis. So in fact, let's do a mirror across the X and then mirror and weld across the X. There we go. And then we're going to say collapse edge here to the corner on the inside here and all the way down. I'm going to say collapse these edges in here. Again, this is a bit nasty. Not my favorite. And then for these corners here, I'm going to go in here with my move brush and just kind of eyeball it. Again, not great, but good enough. Again, you're not seeing in here, so who cares? So you got this. Now, one thing I am seeing is this hole seems to have gotten a little bit big. So we're going to go ahead and close this down a little bit. Control mask circle. I'm going to go ahead and say mask these verts here, Control Tab to invert that. Let's go to Unmesh Mesh Center. We do have X symmetry turned on. However, we don't have L sim turned on. So if I go through here and start scaling, you're going to see it's going to go towards and away from the center axis. So let's turn on L sim. And then also, as I'm scaling, I'm going to hold down Alt and just scale along this axis here to kind of close this up. Because if you go through here and you start scaling, it's going to start like doing some weird stuff with your verts. You just want to scale on those XY axis here. So again, if we want to scale this in a little bit, again, hold down Alt and do this one, and that'll scale it down just a tiny bit. Here we go. And then because we have our polygroups in here, we could go through here. We say, crease PG, and then we can turn on dynamic, and that'll give us crease level 2, smooth level 3. It's inherited our previous settings here. So that's kind of the result we're getting. Good enough. This circle isn't too circular, is it? You can hold down Control Alt. Oh, here's one thing you can do. ZModeler brush, hover over a point, and instead of stitching, we're going to say move infinite depth. So that way, as you're moving in X, and also, you know what, let's say do nothing for our edges and do nothing for our faces. So now you can literally just go through here and move points. You do have an infinite depth move you can actually use for your move brush, but it's built in to your ZModeler brush. Again, if you wanted to put in a control loop along here, that might be worthwhile, especially for circular objects, but since it's cut into a flat plane, I guess I can live with it. Oof. For the move brush here, if we hit move and we go in here to transform, I think it's transform. Is that here? Split screen. Where is that? My brain just shut down. I would assume it's under transform. Let's do this. Me to the rescue. ZBrush 2020 infinite depth. Okay, since we're looking right at it, we turn on our floor, we see Z is forward. Oh, it's under the depth menu. Duh. Okay, so nope, not under transform. So it's under the brush options depth. You're going to see infinite depth is automatically set to Z. We're going to set this to X because if you remember, if we turn our floor back on, here's the X axis, Z is forward. So now with infinite depth set to X with our move brush, now we can use infinite depth with our move brush. So instead of having to resort to our ZModeler brush. So anyway, sorry, this is turning into a much longer thing than I was expecting. Let's go ahead and do this thing real quick. I'm going to say, you know what, let's take this back to mask pin here, Control Alt, and I'm just going to go to unmask groups. All right, so now we do have a little bobby pin looking thing that's going to go all the way through. I forget the name of it. I'm trying to get a view of the other side. It's not a huge deal if I don't have one. We can just, I think we just model it real quick. So let's keep this simple. So I'm going to do, we need to sew this back up. So we figured out this thickness, right? Hold down Shift, shoot it to the bottom, Alt tap this one, shoot it to the bottom. Let's do Shift D. And let's say, you know what, now that I've figured out this weirdo thing, I just want to sew these back up. So right through here, again, move here. So this is all open and this is all open. Let's see how we can figure this out. It's going to hold down Alt and then switch this back to like, I don't know, QMesh, I suppose. And we're just going to drag across here. We're going to say delete, single poly here, and then we're going to merge these two shapes back up. I do need another edge ring in here, so these will match up here. So we're going to say insert single edge loop, and we're just going to put one right in here. And then I can just go ahead and stitch these together. To make this a little bit faster, I can try just using weld. So this one here, Control Alt W. We can say, let's straighten this out here, and we'll have this one. Let's go ahead and merge these back together. So again, merge down. It's under your subtool merge options. I'm going to get these close. Control Shift A, mask this one here. Bring everything back, invert that mask, and pop this in here. So now if I'm close enough, sometimes I can go through here with weld points and just use like weld distance set to 18, and it goes ahead and welds these points up. Oh, but this isn't working. This line will match up here, but nothing matches up here. So what I could do is I could just say, you know what, let's just collapse that edge and see if that smooths correctly. If it doesn't, I can just go through here and say, you know what, okay, fine. Insert single edge loop here, and let's undo back before these are all, there we go, insert edge loop here. So now, again, now I'm just working in circles here. Collapse edge here. Weld points. Good enough. And you know what? Oh, you know what? I was going to say those didn't weld. When we did, I forgot when I had to check on these. So we're going to say collapse edge here and collapse edge. We don't collapse this edge. Let's go ahead and just move this edge back. Infinite depth off. Sorry. Got a little sloppy with our, I got so excited about panel loops working. I forgot to check all my little corners here. So I'm going to say, you know what, you are collapsed down. Good enough. Alt, Shift, go ahead and copy these polygroups over. You know what, that'll be fine. Okay, fine, whatever. Goodness gracious. I spend so much time on something this trivial. So hold on, Shift, turn everything back on, and then again we're going to have that pin that goes through. So really quickly, I think I'm just going to use a box for this. Alt EM, cube mid, just pop in a little box right here, split mask points, W, scale this down, and we're going to do 1/2 of it first. So we're going to scale this down here, and then scale it out. It's going to kind of poke through here, and then again unmesh mesh center. And we'll just put this right through here. And then W, control drag this out. And then these two are going to get bridged together. They're going to kind of go out and then bubble back around. So here's what we're going to do. Insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, and get rid of those extraneous points here. And again, one more time, we're just going to say QMesh single poly. I'm going to hold down Control, and then I'm going to make this here. So again, we're going to force unmesh mesh center here. We're going to kind of force this shape, and then we're going to bridge it. So this is going to be, again, it's going to kind of go out a little bit here. So we're going to bridge this and then control drag out here. And then again, just bridge back. And I didn't have to, I guess I could have done this on its own axis or something like that and just copied it back in. That'd probably be better if you're going to use these a lot of different places, but good enough for now. So delete single poly here, 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 and again we're just going to again bridge all these together and then finally bridge these that little loop back there. Bridge, 2 holes, U to U, U to U. And then this one to this one. Dial that in. And that's fine. So now X symmetry turned off. And then on this side here, don't need any of that nonsense. Delete hidden. I'm just going to do a real quick close holes and then delete edge here. Let's, in fact, yeah, X symmetry's turned off. So now we can go through here. We can say QMesh, polygroup all. And just kind of hold down Shift and pull this out. And on that other side, I'm assuming, can't really see, but these things might, you know, kind of bend out so it can kind of stick in that hole a little bit better. So what we can do is again, hold down Shift, pull it out like this, and then again, hold down Control, pop these out. Control Alt, W, and again, we're just going to tell it, scooch over this way. Unmesh mesh center, over here. And you can bridge two polygons together, but you're not going to have that nice arc control. So again, we're going to say bridge two holes, and we should probably turn off double underneath your display properties. Just being careful about that. And then just tap. There we go. And then, you know what, let's alt tap this one and this one. So it's just back to QMesh, polygroup all, and we'll just pull out a little bit. I don't know, something like that. So now, since this is just a simple cube around here, I can go ahead and hit D for dynamic, and that'll just kind of smooth it into basically a tubey type shape here. And then through this is going to be a helix. So let's quick save. Out of edit mode, Control N. We're going to do a quick Helix 3D. We're going to mess around with some settings here. The first one underneath initialize. And by Helix, I mean it's just, oops. Hold on. Do I have a, sorry, that's really annoying. I can't pull this in. Ooh, why is it doing that? Fine. Close window. Hold on just 1 second here. I think I had a window open. There we go, sure. Add local image. Streaming, turtle power, reference. Second. There we go. Now, that's what we're making right here. Radius, pull that off. Let's go ahead and crank these all the way up. We don't need this many spans. We just need like this many, 2.3, let's say. Let's see, profile, thickness, radius, offset. So let's take the Z offset and just kind of mash these together. Coverage, again, is like 1. I guess those do meet up a little bit, so I'm going to play around with this coverage. If you tap here, you're going to see a little bit of an orange button at the top. You get a little bit finer tuned things here, so these are just going to barely not overlap. It's going to be leave a little bit of room in between these two. And then let's go in here. So I don't come in here that often. Let's turn on our polyframe here. S divides. Yeah, you know what? Let's simplify this quite a bit. Let's say S divides of maybe 5. Looks right. And then L divides. Again, I'm just going to make this as simple as possible. So knock those down just a bit. Z offset. Let's try thickness. Let's see what thickness is up to. Yeah, let's thin these down just a bit. And then again, that Z offset, we're going to push those together. There we go. That's about right, right? Good enough for government work. So we're going to say make Polymesh 3D. And then now, if you wanted to, we can go through here again, crease tolerance on this. So when you hit dynamic, crease a level of 2, smooth set of 3 or something. That'll give us more of that kind of profile. So I'm just going to use this as an insert mesh brush. So I'm going to say B, create insert mesh, new, quick save, and then go back here to our grenade. And just, you know what, we'll just pull it on that shape there. And then we'll say split mask points, D for dynamic, and you know, we need to rotate this around. Unmesh mesh center, scooch. We can go through here and we can goodness. Unmesh mesh center, there we go. Kind of play around with that just a little bit here. D for dynamic, and then this one again should just be able to kind of sit in here comfortably. Something like that. Okay. Headphones are hurting. Oh, you know what? We are looking at the other side. There's the big ring there. So actually, these things actually go up quite a bit. Let's do Shift D and hold down Control. You know, let's do this. QMesh. I'm going to mark these so that they're on their own polygroup here, and let's hold down Shift. So those go out quite a bit here. And maybe not that much. Oh no. So when I do that, and I QMesh this out, I'm going to tap Alt to give it a brand new polygroup here. So that when I go back in here and say, you know what, QMesh polygroup all, it's not grabbing a weird polygroup up here either. Okay. And then as far as how big this ring needs to get, it doesn't look nearly big enough. It actually is almost touching. So I'm going to say, you know what I don't want to move is this pivot up here, and then just from this pivot, we'll scale this down until it about touches. Okay, something like that. And if you did want to inflate this a little bit, since they're all one polygroup here, you can go through here and say QMesh polygroup all, hold down Shift, just pull along that surface normal, or you could literally go into your deformations and inflate. Deformations are down. Oh boy. Down here, so there it is, deformation. And I'm super behind, sorry about that. If I skip anything, I apologize, just keep shouting it out. How are we doing on time? Okay, not too bad. Cool. You do my first, yeah, I agree, Morpheus. It's, yeah, the little bit more functionality for pivots and stuff would help, I think. Do you use reprojection from history in tandem with ZRemesh for hard surface? I guess you, no, not, well, I mean, I guess you could. I guess you could if you had a really precise sculpt and you're just moving polygons, simplified polygons into place. And yeah, absolutely. Why not? Cool. And again, if I missed something, I apologize. First, sculpt stylized female reference doesn't have all the angles to see the curves of the cheekbones, etc. I'm following some tutorials. I don't know if it's the right call. You know, you do have some really good reference if you hit the comma key underneath tool, grab, oh wait, it's not under tool, it's under project. You do have a female and a male Z project. Load these up and pull those into your project. In fact, if it's like, you know what, if I load up a Z project, it's going to blow away everything I'm working on, I can literally bring her in for reference, just do load tools from project, go to ZBrush 2020, Elemento projects, ZBrush 2020. So C, program files, pixel editor, ZBrush 2021, Z projects. And then there's going to be a female Z project. So if you double click this one, that'll just bring in the tool from that Z project. So you can use her as reference for, you can, you can get scan data and stuff, but this will be decent for, like, the draft of the lips, and there's not a ton of detail on here, but it's all generally where you would want your points here. So this might be a good option for you. But of course, you can bring in scan data, stuff like that, and same thing for the male that's in there. I do have, I want to say, you know what, I'll do you one better. Let me see. Google Drive. Give me 1 second, please. Base bodies. Base. Base meshes. Okay, fine, base mail. Okay, here we go. Female base 001.z tool. Ooh, I don't know if this is the one I want. Let's see. Before I send this out. Okay, good. So I have this female for you if you'd like. We don't want YouTube to yell at me, so I'm not gonna leave her up on screen super long. But here's the female base. So share, get link, copy link. Okay, done. And there you go. You can download her as a reference if you want to. Cool. Beep. CGF files. CFG, excuse me. Snapping functionality of ZModeler be where it's going to trigger my OCD if I can't align normals in parallel perfectly. Yeah, if you need to do like a modular set piece or you need to be very precise with modeling, then yeah, ZBrush is definitely going to trigger you all over the place. Good luck with that. Learning to let go is what I've done. If you need to do something, super precise, generally what I'll do is I'll hop into actually maybe in here too. Fusion 360. I'll hop in here. Like if I need to get down to like the millimeter precision. I mean, granted, you know, you want polygons. There's ways to go from Fusion to like Moi 3D and then into ZBrush or you know Ngons. You can go through whatever modeling program and do your hard surface stuff to your heart's content. But yeah, if I'm doing super duper stuff, I'll hop in there. Cool, thank you. Lemelad. You can use physics to make the pin and spring hang more naturally. Yeah, maybe. This here, probably not, because what it's going to do is it's going to simulate this all as cloth. What you could do is you could assign it to a plane and then have that plane kind of dictate. You could use a micro mesh or a nano mesh if you wanted to just have a plane that would be simulated, so it would keep it all one spring, and then have it kind of just bloop, bloop, kind of dangle around. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, and yeah, for the rigid body, it's fake, but it's exactly what I'm talking about. Let me see. Yeah, fake rigid body simulation. So essentially you can go through here and again, it's basically using micropoly. So you can go through and you can just say, these are all just poly planes falling around. Let me see if I switch it up here. Oops. There you go. Yeah, so if you want to kind of do, again, a fake rigid body simulation, again, it's just planes being simulated that are driving these objects, but you can give this a shot if that's something cool for you. Cool. How to thicken the edges. Oh yeah, so this was basically deformation, inflate. So all the way down here, there's a deformation. Oops. And there's an inflate here. Oh, dang it. I just did a, luckily, I hit a deformer accidentally and it got into a bad state, but I did do a quick save, so I think we're safe. Let's open up that last quick save real quick. Basically, deformation, inflate, or using ZModeler, quick save. There we go. So one more time, we got our insert mesh here, B, create insert mesh new. You could append this as a different subtool if you wanted to. But we're just going to go ahead and plop that right in here. Say split mass points, W, move this down, Alt tap this one, go to unmesh mesh center, rotate it around, Alt tap this one, and we'll go here, set this up to this pivot point and scale it down so it's the appropriate size here. And then again, deformation inflate that we just talked about, or QMesh polygroup all, and then hold down shift as you're QMeshing, and that'll pull along the surface normals as well. That, and then of course here, we need to redo this. So one more time, Alt tap these, and we still have QMesh turned on for faces. QMesh polygroup also, as I'm pulling this out, I'm gonna tap Alt to give it a new polygroup here so that that's working. Okay, and then here we'll go ahead and hit D for dynamic, and let me make this here. Yeah, good enough. So now Shift D. So if you want to go through and manually, you can play around with your crease tolerances, or just literally go in here and just manually crease what you need to crease. So this is going to be nice and flowy. Let's go in here again to our depth, turn on our infinite depth in X. I'm just going to kind of squish these down just a little bit here. Here, 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 here. And then again, let's go through here and I'm going to say crease and then W. Oops, let's go ahead and turn off infinite depth. Help these out just a little bit. We did some gross stuff down there, but again, it's not making a huge deal. Let's not make it a huge deal. And then over through here, mirror and weld, and okay. Geometry, deformation, mirror across the X, mirrored weld across the X. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark these as a different polygroup here. And let's just do, you know what, I'm going to isolate. And let's just do this. Fine. Crease tolerance here. Dynamic. And then once I do the crease tolerance here, I have to go through and uncrease these. Sorry. Crease edge here. Alt, Alt, Alt. Just holding down Alt and uncreasing these edges here. And you know what? Maybe that should be uncreased too. Goodness gracious. Okay, I think we spent enough time on all that nonsense. Although I think we're pretty close to being done. I don't see anything else that needs to be like crazy. So you know what we could, well, let's go ahead and save this. Let's go ahead and save this as. I'm gonna throw this right into my streaming folder for our Turtle Power Bebop. And we're going to call this Renard. And here's what I'm just going to go through here. We're going to say, I could keep these all separate and be like, you know what, I'm going to take an entire folder. I'm going to put all these things into a folder here and then copy the folder using Z plugin, subtool master, copy folder, paste folder. But I think what I'm going to do instead is literally just do a merge visible. And that's going to throw out a merged version of this. I'm going to go to the side here, say B, create insert mesh, new, go back to my guy. Let's bring in his reference. So texture, import. What am I looking for here? Sorry, streaming is what we're doing. Reference. Where's this basic reference? Yes, perfect. Texture, add that to our spotlight, make it a little bit bigger, turn down the opacity a bit, and then I go ahead and make sure everything's vaguely lined up. We can even turn on perspective if we wanted to. So there's our guy. And again, we'll just go ahead and turn it way back in the beginning when we were messing around with the timeline show. I'm just going to go ahead and throw another timeline in there. And drag that dot off, drag another dot back on. And then, what's a good one? I'll just take his little turtle necklace here. And we're going to say BI brush insert mesh this one and just drag. And we're going to say split mask points. We can turn X symmetry off because we don't need it. And get rid of that one. Geometry modify topology delete hidden. And so now we have one. Kind of generally on his shirt-ish. And then another one here. So let's say control drag this out and give him a little room to breathe here. Close enough. And, you know, we can make that make more sense in a bit. But yeah, let's see what else we're missing on this guy. We've got his shoulders. You know what? We can play around with that. Are these cleaned up at all? Oh, you know what? Those are already kind of pretty clean. These are already pretty clean. Gosh, we're getting towards the end of this guy, I think. We can do his hair, maybe. His teeth are looking pretty ratty. We can do a little bit better job on his teeth there. Yeah, or we could go through and we could texture this thing. You know what? We won't texture that. Cool. Alrighty, so as far as things need to be cleaned up, you know, like I said before, these are all looking decent. Those are all nano meshes, by the way. If you miss these streams, actually, if you go back to my YouTube channel here, we always have this. Let me see, YouTube playlist. Looks for the Big Blue Genie live stream full episodes. So last month's here. Oh, I guess we did Krang last month actually, but here's all the previous. And then also, where you're watching this now is the ZBrush Pavlovich Workshop. So here's all my past episodes of my Pavlovich Workshop here on their channel as well. So now for the teeth, I'm gonna bring in the reference here, sorry. Add local image reference. I'm gonna bring in hue, and where's the other simple one? This one. There we go. So I'm gonna have these available to me. So one obvious thing he's missing is, again, I'm going to grab this necklace subtool here. Actually, this needs to be simplified as well. That's just a Dynamesh. We can fix that real quick. But first, let's sort of go out of perspective mode. BI brush insert, IMM primitives. There may be, I guess there's not. Well, make a primitive out of a ring. So you can go through here and literally just put in a ring here. Say split mask points. W, we'll put this in here. And just like we've been doing before, I go through here and you can use deformation deflate, or I always like to go through here for some reason, QMesh polygroup all, and just hold down shift and just pull along that surface normal, thin that out. And we'll just uniformly scale this down. So a little bit more. D for dynamic if we want. Crease level of, I mean, crease level doesn't even matter on this one, but smooth subdiv of 2 is fine. And then, you know what, let's play around with this hair. So he has a very, very, he has a very particular kind of mohawk that kind of goes into a little ponytail there. What's the best way to do that? We may have to do two separate sections here. So for this hair, and again, you also don't do, we want to stylized, or we want to do Fibermesh. We'll start with Fibermesh, and if that doesn't quite work, we'll do a little bit more stylized. So one way I can grow this Fibermesh out, thank you. Got even more cold brew. I'm going to be buzzing today. Homemade cold brew, by the way. Got a little weird contraption. You can put the grinds in there and throw it in the fridge. We can grow Fibermesh out using a Morph Target, or we can literally just mask and grow Fibermesh. I think we'll try Morph Target first. Congrats on your 100,000 subscriber milestone. Did I hit that? Let me back out. Yes, I do. Look at that. Ta-da. Thanks, everybody. You know what? Thank you. It's all you viewers that do that, make that number. So if it wasn't for y'all, then I would just be screaming into the void. I'm doing good. Places 3D. Cool. Oh, strap on the leg and scruff fur on the cheeks, maybe. Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. He does have a strap on his leg, and we would maybe need to even put in some cloth wrinkles on here. In fact, this whole pants situation, I'm not a real big fan of. We have wrinkles on there, but this whole top part is really, it kind of bothers me a little bit, so we may have to rethink that just a bit. And he also has knee pads that we also need to make. But you know what? Well, okay, first thing, I did say we were going to fix this real quick, so this would be an easy fix. We have a Dynamesh thing sitting here, and this is 236,000 polygons. It doesn't need to be that heavy. So let's go ahead and fix this real quick. So first thing I like to do is hold down Control and tap this little point in history, so we can always snap back to these verts. We're storing these vert positions in history. Now we're going to go through here and just do a quick ZRemesher. So of course that's going to be under your geometry ZRemesher here, and I'm going to say ZRemesher, adapt the size down. Again, the lower this is, the more perfect quads it's going to want to make. I don't need to go all the way down, but maybe around 10. Keep groups, I don't need to have that on. And then we're going to ZRemesh this, not half, but maybe target polygon count of 2000 is probably fine. So what that's going to do is give me new geometry. It's going to kind of maybe average some vertices. So you're going to see it kind of maybe has a little bit of a melting effect, but we can always snap back to our other verts. So here's our new vert positions. And I think, honestly, this is actually pretty damn good. If you wanted to push it a little bit, you see I have a project history in here. I'm going to do project history. That's going to move these verts back out to that stored point in history we have. Of course, that's underneath subtool project here. All this is on the YouTube channel as well. If you just go to my YouTube channel, then you want to do like, what the hell is that? History project or history recall. It's all through here. And that's actually ZBrush. You're going to see ZBrush 2020. So if you ever see that, if I'm smart, usually what I'll do is I'll put a little YouTube link to the video, or at least the video series, but you can also go in here in our playlists and just do a quick search for ZBrush 2020 what's new. Here's 2019, here's ZBrush 2020 what's new, view full playlist, and then if you just do a Control F history, you can go through here and you can just cycle through. So here's their history recall brush, project history, all that good stuff. So I'll link you here. That's all the 2020 functionality we're messing with. Anyways, if you want to play with this or just keep pushing it, let's go half, ZRemesh half. Again, we try to go as low as we can. And again, it's kind of averaging those verts. So we'll go back to project history. We'll snap those back out. Half, project history, snap them back out. I think that's pretty low. So what we're going to do is we need to get the details back, right? And the details are being stored in those vert positions in our history. Now, you don't have to do this. You could go through here and do a project all and duplicate this off, but I like project history. So Control D, which is geometry subdivide, and then again, project history, Control D, project history, Control D, project history. It kind of put a weird line along here. You're going to see this gets a little bit nasty aliased. So if you wanted to go through here and put like ZRemesh lines on here or guides, you could. For me personally, oops, not project all. Sorry, project history is what you want to do there. Project all is going to grab a bunch of weirdo stuff that's just sitting next to them. Project history, there we go. So now the cool thing about this is you now have subdivision history. You can UV this later, you can bake out a normal map or whatever, but you still have your high-res details back. So that's how I would fix that. Cool. Yes. If you're able to unwrap this, is there any way to get the seams where you want them? Unwrap seems a bit unpredictable. It's not, if you want to put the seams exactly where you want to, and again, we'll just do a quick save here. So again, if I wanted to UV this in any particular way, first thing I would do is Z plugin. We're going to go through here and we're going to say UV master, symmetry, yes. Work on clone, yes. So here's our object here. And then we have X symmetry turned on still. There we go. So now I can go through here again. I'm going to use my, underneath your polygroups, you have your group by normals. So you can use this. Just drop that max angle down. You know what? Let's do open circle. So this will actually give you polygroups here. So let's crank that max angle up. Open circle, polygroups. You can go through here and this will split your object up into polygroups. So now you can go through here and you can say, you know what? This polygroup here. Oops. Why is it grabbing all that? This purple polygroup here, and then maybe this orange and this green polygroup here can all be one polygroup. And then I don't want to do a mirror and weld because that's going to change my word order, which I think may kind of do some nasty stuff here. So I'm going to kind of try to keep those on the same polygroup here. Control W. So basically I'm breaking up my object into different polygroups, and this is going to determine exactly where my seam lines are. So we've got this one here. Will this work? Yeah, that can all be one, right? And then same thing out here. So all this one, this can all be one. Control W. Now you can also go through here and literally just paint your polygroups if you want to. But I think that'll work fine. That's all going to be one polygroup here. So something like this. You could go through and just split these things up to the exact polygroups you want. And then fingers crossed, you should be able to go through here, symmetry, polygroups, unwrap. And then when you flatten, it'll flatten them along those polygroup lines. Now you can, if we do unflatten, you can go here and say enable control painting, and that's where you can go through here and be like, okay, I'm going to paint this red and paint this blue. It's going to get rid of, it's going to basically try and put your seams where you want them, but on a shape this complex that has like a bunch of ins and outs and connected pieces, I think it's a little bit safer to go through and do it this way. In fact, speaking of polygroup painting, which you can do is if you want to change some of these and be like, you know what, this one, I want this one to be green, this one to be pink. Again, you can go to your ZBrush, hold down Alt, start painting, and then tap Shift to inherit that. And then you can go through here and you can say, again, hold down Alt to start painting, Shift to inherit pink, and then you can just paint these pink. So you can go through and fine tune where you want your exact polygroups to go. But yeah, that seemed to work fine. Anyways, yeah, so if we go through here again, unwrap, flatten to check your seams. Okay, that'll work for me. So we'll say unflatten. We'll go ahead and copy these UVs. We'll go back to our actual mesh here, and we'll say paste UVs just to make sure. We can go down here and we can say texture map, create new from UV map or UV check, and you'll see there we go. We have UVs. Now, in this instance, I don't necessarily need UVs. Like UVs will actually kind of drastically increase your file sizes and kind of hit your performance a little bit. So if you don't need them, then don't worry about them. Just go in here to your UV map and say delete UV, etc. Yeah, and ZRemesh guides. I tend to use polygroups just to get the exact line that I want. Alex, F1, I'm doing good. You know what? I'll use ZBrush a little bit for UV unwrapping for quick stuff. Cool. Thank you, Carlos. Carlos Santana. Wow. We have rock and roll royalty here. Excellent. From Brazil. Got people all over the place today. Yeah, let's go ahead and do... Okay, let's do this. Let's try some Fibermesh. I don't know how good it's going to do, but we'll give it a shot. So for Fibermesh, what I'm going to do is I don't necessarily want to mess around with this base mesh here, so I'm going to duplicate this off. And we're going to say go into solo mode, and we're going to say control. You know what? Let's go back to our... You see we have that little red thing. Let's go ahead and control tap that point in history for our thing so it's not stored in history anymore. And then go back to his head here. This is our duplicate, so I'm going to hold down control. Let's turn on transparency here, and I'm just going to use this as a guide of where we want our... You can hold down control, and if we want to mask through, let's turn on ghost. So we can go through here and be like, okay, so our mohawk is going to essentially be here, and it's going to kind of transition into ponytail from there. So let's go out of solo mode here. Let's control tap to kind of blur those edges out a little bit. And we'll use this as our Fibermesh guide. Like I was mentioning before, what we can do is we can go through here and we can say Morph Target and just make sure that's deleted. We're going to store a Morph Target and then control tap to invert this, hit W, and we'll just kind of use this as our way to grow our Fibermesh. Cool. And you know what, let's go out of X symmetry, snap to the middle, and we'll kind of spread that out. So this is where I want my Fibermesh to grow, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go back here to our Fibermesh, and we're going to go through here, and we're going to say preview, and we're going to go down here under maybe it is under modifiers at the very bottom here, Morph Target guided. If you turn that on, it's going to put all of those fibers right where Morph Target is. However, let's go ahead and turn off preview. Let's go ahead and say switch so we don't see it sitting there. And then back here under preview, we'll have Morph Target guided. So now you can see, where your fibers are. And you know what? Just for the hell of it, let's go ahead and make this what it should be. So we'll go ahead and turn his base to purple and his tip to purple as well. let's change our material here. So that's essentially what this is looking like. Let's take gravity and we'll turn that down so it's just kind of going straight out. And then our max fibers, we're going to crank those down quite a bit. And then the coverage we're going to crank up, so kind of thicken these out. There we go. So we have a mohawk started. Now again, this mohawk is going to transition into a ponytail here, and that's where it gets a little bit tricky. We can comb that down. That's good enough. So I'll say accept. Yeah, sure. So I went ahead and turned on the preview settings. So if we go down here to preview settings, we have fast preview turned on, so that'll kind of lessen this. In fact, we can turn the previs down so you see less control splines essentially. So while you're combing this, you're not going to see very many. Your performance will be enhanced for what that's worth. So this hair, again, this is just a guide for where we want our stuff to go. So if I go back here to our hair, now we need to figure out how we want this. So let's go ahead and turn on X symmetry here. And now we want Fibermesh to be grown out. Now we don't want to do Fibermesh like this, because you're not growing your hair down here to make a ponytail. You're growing your hair here with longer hair, and that gets pulled into a ponytail. So I think this is the only place we'd really need hair growing out of. And we'll do a little bit of a different technique here. So we'll turn on preview, and we'll turn off Morph Target guided. We're going to crank up our length quite a bit, maybe even all the way. And on this one here, I should have done this on the other one, the segments we're going to really crank up, maybe to like 9, 10, or 11. Gravity, we're going to turn up a little bit so it kind of hangs, and then twist, we'll just put twist down to 0. We can do that manually. There we go. So now we've got kind of a ponytail growing out. So we've got the mohawk here, and then the ponytail. We're going to comb this into place and kind of bunch it up and see if we can get this to work. Something like this. In the base here, wish I could see that one. What we could do. I'm going to take this color, I'm going to grab the tip color, and then for the base, there we go. Okay. All right, and then yeah, so now this is where you can kind of play with the coverage or the max fibers, depending on how many fibers you want to see. And in this case, and we want more segments because we want to have a little bit more control as we're grooming this to have more, basically a segment is down the length of the fiber, more divisions. So you can get a little bit more, because if you just have 3, it's going to go 1, 2, 3. It's going to be very boxy looking. In fact, you know what? Let's crank this up a little bit. Let's say 12. I'll turn gravity down just a bit. Okay. Good enough. Let's see if this will work. So we're going to go ahead and say accept. So now we have our fiber mesh here. And let's do this. Brush, groom. I kind of want to bring it all into place here. We'll try this. I'm going to do groom hair ball. And we're just going to kind of wrap this up into a kind of a single ball here. Another thing we need to do is way down here underneath brush, auto masking. I think it's in here. It's been a while since I've done this. Oh no, it's not. It's under brush, fiber mesh here. This front collision tolerance, I'm going to drop this down to like 10, and that'll allow us to kind of get a little bit closer as we're grooming, get us a little bit closer to the underlying mesh, so it doesn't kind of puff out as we're doing this here. So we've got kind of a thing going here, and again, that's going to be, I think that's global. Oh, maybe not. Let's see. Brush, groom, hair toss. Again, it's been a while since I've done this. Okay, so if we go in here to our move brush here, I'm going to say preserve length up to 100, and then the front collision tolerance is set to 10. So now we can use our move brush as a groom brush, essentially. That'll be a little bit easier to use, maybe. So here's our ponytail, and that's going to go through here, and then, oops. You know what, let's simplify our scene a little bit. I want our fiber mesh here, and I want our hair guide here. Now, if I'm using this, okay, good. So now it won't be trying to collide with like clothing and stuff like that. Good enough. And you know what? Let's also, I'm just gonna keep pushing I'm gonna keep popping my hair up here a little bit and then pulling it back out. You can also use Shift to kind of go through and smooth hair if you wanted to. And then again, move. We're using this as our groom brush, and even pinch. We'll go in here to our pinch. Again, preserve length up to 100, and then front collision tolerance at 10. We can go ahead and start pinching. Smooth, and then pinch. And then go back into our groom brushes here. Groom, let's see, brush groom, hair toss. That'll kind of feather them back out a little bit. I'll kind of get a ponytail going. And this gets a little bit tedious. You can kind of go through here again with your move brush. I'm going to take this preserve length down a little bit so I can use my move brush to kind of lengthen these strands a little bit. And then we'll go. If you go back up to 100, that's kind of like cloth dynamics, where it kind of maintains the relationships between your hair. Go. And then I can actually just maybe mask these ends here. And let's see if there's a brush groom spike. Let's drop that Z intensity way down. Just kind of twist these together just a bit. And it keeps wanting to like collide with other stuff. Oh, you know what? Maybe because I have this on. Turn that off. There's a way to say, like, I wish it was a little bit more like dynamics so I could tell it, hey, don't worry about trying to be fiber mesh around these particular things. Anyway, you can kind of go through here and try to, again, mask by polygroups. Oops, not mask by polygroups. Preserve length down. Again, so we want to pull these top ones in here. We don't really have symmetry turned on. So we're going to kind of just get this into place here. And then you could even go through and you could use inflate. Oh, you know, one thing I did forget to do. So one thing you're going to maybe want to do is underneath here, you're going to see BPR settings. We have the sides is set to 4. However, the profile is set to 1, so literally you're not going to see thickness on your hair unless you do a BPR render, which turns the sides to 4. So if you wanted real geometry, which generally I do, I would do the preview setting or the profile set to 4, and then the segments you dial that in however you need. So anyway, something like that. But again, I don't think it's great for a live stream. It's a little bit tedious to mess with. That's the other thing too, is now I can't use I could use inflate. If it was real geometry, now it's kind of inflating, like it would inflate a plane, which isn't super useful. But you know, there's groom turbulence and stuff like that. So you can go through there and you can start dialing in. Let's see, sorry, preserve length back to 100. And then you'd have to go back here. Again, this is a fast preview, so you're going to see there's going to be more hairs that are going to populate during a render. Like so. So now you would have to go through here and, you know, maybe use a brush groom, hair toss maybe. And now this one had fewer segments, you know, so it's going to be it's only got 3. So I don't know. This is a good practice run to be like, okay, what's working, what's not. And then I would go back through and be like, okay, let's do another version of this where we put in our profiles so we have actual geometry. And you could even go through here and clump. So if you wanted to say, you know, let's hold down Control Mask Pin, go ahead and mask, you know, these entire strands here. Control Tap to invert this. Go back into your pinch. There is a brush groom clump, brush groom. Somewhere in here, there's a groom clump here, but you could also just manually do it too to get that look you want. Let's turn off dynamic for our solo. So something like that, you could start to get a little bit of hair Sculpt ZBrush, export to model in Maya. Can I do UVs in Maya, or I need to do it in ZBrush before I export to Maya? You can do UVs in Maya if you wanted to. Like Alex is saying. Cool. I was in a video for a graphics card. Excellent. That's interesting. Wonder what that's all about. I don't remember doing any graphics card videos. Good idea to update my ZBrush. Asking if I've had issues in the past with some updates on pin pressure. They do have underneath preferences here tablet driver API. You can give these a shot if you're having kind of weird issues. You could go through here and play around with those. The last two are more of a. I always have to update because I always have to stay latest and greatest with ZBrush. New functionality videos I have to make. But yeah, I haven't had any problems. Oh, here's my reference guy. I guess we don't need him. And then also the reference arm. Cool. Let's go ahead and hold down Shift and turn off polyframe here. And this hair, you know what? I'll leave this hair in here since I may end up redoing that Fibermesh there. We'll call that a day. Oh, good. We're wrapping up. We're wrapping up quick. You know what? One last thing here. We'll go ahead and say I'll tap these here if we want these to look a little bit better. We'll turn on dynamic. Smooth subdiv of 2 is fine. Let's say crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3. We may have to go through here and add some control loops in here, or you know what? This isn't all meant to have one smoothing type, but I guess it'll work okay. The only thing I see that kind of bugs me. Let's do this real quick. Hold down Control Shift A, and then I'll grab these pins. Let's hit Control W, and then now we can say Mask Invert, and I'm just going to go through here again one more time. Deformation. Deformation what? Inflate. And we'll go ahead and, again, let's undo that. If you tap inflate, maybe is there a little, no, there's not really. I guess inflate of 1 is fine. Good enough. Alrighty. And again, if you wanted to thicken these up a little bit, you could, I would do it in the base model, frankly. But since we do have polygroups here, we can say QMesh polygroup all, and then just hold down Shift as you're pulling along that surface normal, and that'll kind of thicken up where those polygroups are. A little bit better. Frame those up. Yeah. Put an alpha on a groom brush. Does it affect anything? Yeah, I think it will. In fact, I think some of those groom brushes, brush groom, I want to say some of those groom brushes do have an alpha in there. Yeah. So here's the groom brush. You can see it's got an alpha in there. It kind of layers, gives you a layer effect. Cool. All right, everybody. I'm going to head out. We'll pick this back up next week. Oh, not next week. This week, Thursday. I'll stream on my channel, and we'll just keep continuing on. Like I said before, we got some claw stuff we could do, or we can do something completely different. Doesn't have to be continue to be this guy, but he's just kind of a fun one to play with, different techniques and stuff. So cool. Thanks everybody, and catch you on the flip side.